Hello all, so our next little mini lesson that we're going to be talking about is the soapstone. So similar to the rhetorical triangle, which should be the video you just watched previous to clicking on this one, soapstone is something that you are going to be very familiar with by the end of class here. It's also just super helpful when you come to your AP exams. It's a way to be able to organize your thoughts in case you're looking at the prompt and you're like, oh my god, I am so lost. Don't worry, this is not only something that we're going to nail into your brains, but hopefully it's a pretty easy acronym to remember. As you're going to find out, AP really loves its acronyms. That will hopefully help you along as you go through and read things. It's a way to start to categorize and understand how the rhetorical triangle is being used within a piece of literature. In this unit specifically, you're going to be asked to be looking at the soapstone and the rhetorical triangle. It comes out to 9 pieces that on about everything that we read, you're going to have to be analyzing, or at least find 1 or 2 examples to show me that you're able to understand the concepts that we've been looking at. So firstly, the way that this acronym works is that we just go through the letters. The first S and the next S that we hit, it doesn't really matter. You can switch them around and it's not a huge deal, but this is the way that I always write it, so we're gonna go with this. So the first one is the speaker. Ask yourself, who is the speaker, the voice that tells the story in the argument? So as a reader, these are the really important things to remember. You might want to look back at these slides as you're making your arguments at the end of term, but that's still quite a bit away. So who is the speaker of the piece? How do they represent themselves through their language, information, organizational structure, and how are they attempting to influence their perceived audience? And sometimes, if you're reading like a newspaper article, the speaker might not always be the person directly writing it. It might be the person they're writing about, or maybe they are the speaker because they are giving their biased opinion about something or about an event that's happened. A lot of times the speaker is probably going to be pretty obvious, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Next is the occasion. So we looked at occasion and exigence. And occasion and exigence are 2 separate things, but they're kind of all lumped together within this. The occasion is specifically like the very specific time and place that this is taking place, the context that prompted the writing. So you can answer the occasion to say literally they gave this speech on X, Y, and Z day and it was given here, or you can say that the occasion was also the exigence, so maybe, once again, going back to the example, that someone in their community was killed, and so that's the occasion that they're writing the speech. As it happens, writing doesn't occur in a vacuum. Even if you don't have a specific occasion, maybe you're asked for just specifically like, hey, do you want to come and do this graduation speech? And you don't necessarily have an occasion that's prompting you to want to sway. The truth of the matter is that nothing is written in a vacuum, and even if you don't know it, there's probably things at play that are causing you to write one way or another, and as good analysts, it is our job to try to figure out what other things might be behind the obvious surface. A is for audience. So who is this group of readers directed at? And oftentimes there definitely might be more than one audience that someone is thinking of. It might go super broad and be entire countries, or it might be super specific and just be one subset of people in a certain job or one age group. Like I said, we will come across many speeches where there is probably 3 or 4 answers for the audience, and so it's important to consider how is the speaker speaking to each of these audiences, or how do they have things for everyone within here, and is it different? Are there different levels of how they're giving this speech? P is for purpose. So what is the reason behind the creation of this? So what was the reason for writing the speech? How is this structured to achieve this purpose? If someone wants to ban the animal cruelty, what are they doing to make us say, yes, we want to ban animal cruelty too? So this is the place where the rhetorical triangle is mostly going to come into play when you're talking about the purpose, because the way that they get you to agree with their point of view is by using the rhetorical triangle. So then we have the subject. So what is the topic or topics of the piece in the main argument? So as a reader, you have to consider, what is the subject? What is this person trying to convince me of? What are their sub-arguments? what implications are made, like, so what things can be read between the lines, even if maybe a speaker doesn't come out and say specific things about a specific political candidate, how could we still glean about what they feel about that subject or about that person? So there's obviously the above level subject, which might be pretty easy to understand, but part of being an AP student is also looking beneath the surface to go, okay, what else could their subject be? What is the things between the lines that we need to be looking at? Because if you can start to recognize that, you can start to be a better consumer of media and of speeches and all of that if you're able to at least recognize the ways that people are trying to make you believe or sway one way or another. And then lastly, the tone. So what is the tone of the piece or the attitude that someone is giving? How are they conveying their opinion on certain ideas with certain words? What assumptions can we make? How do they use diction and structure, which is syntax? And we're going to talk about those things, don't worry, we're going to get to that. And isn't it effective for arguing the piece? If someone is trying to, once again, let's say stop animal cruelty, and they seem to not really care about animals, well, it's probably not going to make us care about animals either. But if they're sitting up there almost crying talking about animals, we're probably going to be slightly more inclined to want to agree with their opinion. So tone and attitude are part of the FAN 5, which is tone, diction, syntax, selection of detail, and the genre. Tone is a heavy contributor to the style, but style encompasses a bunch of different crafts, which is all those things we just learned about. This isn't necessarily totally important to be aware of, but when you say that the style of which someone is talking is not the same way that the tone that someone is giving. Style is all of these other little bits that we're going to start to pick up on, where tone is just strictly the words and how they want their words to be conveyed, whether it be through imagery or through specific jargon or through how they appear about the speech. So tone is just very specific and small, and style is that bigger idea. So in a second, in the next slide, we're going to go through this speech together and take a look at some of these examples. I will see you guys in the next video.